All right, it's January 14th. Temperatures are good. I think we're running in the 70s, but it's really kind of humid and nasty outside. So I'm starting today. I got new CAD plated bolts and nylox to replace the stuff that was on there. Just work my way across, and then I'm going to go ahead and mount up the hubs, which I think is going to require all that dummy shaft stuff again. And then we'll see from there. The thing I want to try to remember to do is to cover these shims with NICs, just keep them from rusting up later on. Alright, I'm building one of the hubs, the passenger side hub. And these are the shafts that go through here. I got new nylox for them, but the threads were goobered up, so I had to actually had to use the torch to get the nuts come off, and then I ran the dye over it to clean up the threads because I think they just get rusted. And so now we have to do that same dance with the little 5/8 inch spacers, because those washers sit in the middle of those. And then the whole thing has to be pushed in one operation through the end of the A-arm. So it's going to be a pain in the ass. But since this is the one that they were able to disassemble, I'm going to go ahead and rebuild the bearings and seals and all that kind of stuff on this end. Alright, quick update. Got this new seal in the end there, and then the bearing and hub and all that kind of stuff is in the freezer. What I'll probably do is just leave it in there till tomorrow, so that the whole thing is shrunk down enough so that that bearing will drop on it. And then in that bag there with the barcode on top, that's the seal that goes on the inside. And like I said, I cleaned these all up, and I've made a new dummy shaft. This one, the 5/8 inch dowels were a lot bigger than 5/8 inch, and so I got 1/2 inch, and then I used duct tape to build it up, and then I wrapped it with a couple of layers of packing tape so that it would be slicker, because I don't want the sharp edges on those shim spacers to catch on it. And I made it so that it just fits in there. So we'll see how it goes. All right, I was getting kind of confused because I had that spacer. I had one on each side that I had associated with that shaft, and that was a mistake. And hopefully I will remember this lesson, but you have to videotape stuff as you take it apart, and I didn't, and so I was all confused. It turns out that spacer is for the shock shaft. It goes here so that shock lines up and is straight up and down like the one on this side. And what I needed over here were these bushings, which will now ride in the inside of a modern seal, and so hopefully we'll have a better situation. So I'm going to go ahead and pack the bearings the old-fashioned way with rubbing it across your palm, get those in there. And then use the dummy shaft, get that set up, and we'll see if we can't get it installed. The passenger side, we'll have to wait, because again, I'm going to leave the stub, the axle stub, in the freezer overnight so that it gets as small as possible. All right, it's the end of the day, Saturday. Went ahead and palmed grease into the bearings for the one that I disassembled, and again, we'll put that together tomorrow. And for this one, there it is with the modern seals. The pink in the middle is actually just the grease on the dummy shaft. So the dummy shaft goes through there to hold everything. You slip it in between the two forks, or the fork in here. And then we use the shaft to drive through and push the dummy shaft out while everything stays in place. And then I went ahead and rubbed down all of the spacers. I believe these are, they set the camber? Yeah, camber for the rear wheels. I just kept them the way they are. There's no reason that any of that should change from factory, but they're all rubbed down with NSEs. I think there's 8 on each side, so they're all rubbed down. My hands hurt. I'm not sure how people who are hairdressers or masseuses do it. That seems like a lot of painful work. There's the other side, so I'll put that in tomorrow. Probably need Derek's help, just because there's just going to be a lot of juggling and wiggling and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully based on my experience putting in the races in here, and Derek this week on the Audi, because we rebuilt the front end. Needed bearing somewhere. Oh no, it was a bushing. Had to put a bushing in. Heating and cooling it just made that all that stuff really easy. So keep your fingers crossed for this tomorrow. All right, it's January 15th, 2017. I'm currently heating up the bearing. I noticed that the bottom side in this case protruded down, so I put that on the bottom so that way the inner race would get the most heat. I tried sliding it on to the stub axle, which has been in the freezer overnight, and it didn't slide on, so I'm going to go ahead and heat it up. And next I got to make sure I know exactly what sequence of spacers and whatnot go on the stub axle before this goes on. So I'm going to go research that next. Alright, I got that one all put together, all the original shims and bearings and all that good stuff, but with new seals. Seals are my nemesis. I don't know how you get them to go in straight without the rubber shaving off on the outsides, but they're in, and you know, since the standard for the car was to use bits of leather as seals, I think we're in good enough shape. That's all the bolts threaded back on. This is the problem child that I already have. I got all the fulcrum stuff set up, and I'm gonna have to replace it. This is the one that I couldn't get the half shaft out, and the machine shop couldn't get the half shaft out, and the end of the bolt is, so I was just going to run it. and you know, threw a no grease in there and let it go until it finally gave out. But the end of the axle half shaft is now mushroomed. It had a hole, which is where when I was hitting it with the air hammer and a pointed bit, it was inside there, but it's mushroomed and the bolt won't go back on. So gonna have to look for a replacement for all of that, which is a real bummer, especially since it took me all day yesterday to get these things in. So I'm gonna take a break for a while and maybe come back to it later and move the dummy shaft from that one and build up the passenger side over there and see if we can't get that installed over there. But it's like one step forward and 6 steps back with this thing. But maybe the universe is telling us that this one had to be replaced.